LucidLink's new pricing is a confusing mess. The new pricing is gonna cost me more. I don't understand this change. These are all complaints I've heard about the 3.0 pricing change. There's clearly a lot of confusion in the community around this. So I took a deep dive to analyze the pricing changes, compare them to the old pricing, and come to some conclusions. To do this, I built a pricing calculator that I'll show you later, and you can also download yourself. To address the most important question, is this more expensive than before? If you were on the advanced plan before, then in most normal use cases, no, it is not more expensive. In most normal use cases, the new price is actually slightly cheaper. Not always the case, but I would think that for most organizations using Lucid, it is marginally cheaper, and I'll show you why. The switch from charging from users, then charging for storage independently, versus bundling storage with users makes this complicated to see and compare. And there are some use cases where the price is more expensive, but I believe those are fringe cases. I'll explain in a bit, but first, let's go over why basic plan users will be disappointed, and why I had to rewrite this script right before shooting this episode. First, I originally wrote this script in December 2024, when all the details around the 3.0 pricing were available, and I bought a test account. In January 2025, Lucid changed its pricing again, for it feels like the third time in 12 months. See here on the Wayback Machine. Compared to today, two key differences and a sneaky price increase. First, they changed the amount of storage you get per user, 500 gigs to 400 gigs. And then they changed the overage price from $6.4 to 400 gigs to $8 per 100 gigs. But see, they kept the per user price the same. And that's why this is a bit sneaky. No announcements or anything, just one day to the next the value went down, making this less of a good deal for those switching. Let's move on and talk about the basic plan. If you're on the basic plan and use 2 terabytes of space with 5 or more users, then you will be paying more. The entry level tier has changed substantially. For $80, you used to be able to get 2 terabytes and 5 users on Wasabi storage. To replicate that now, you're looking at upgrading to the business plan, where 5 users will cost you $135 per month, with an included 2 terabytes of storage. Why not the new starter plan, the lowest tier before to the lowest tier now? Because it caps out at 1 terabyte. It really is just a paid test environment. I can't imagine most users would be interested in using this for any sort of professional video work at scale. This is the biggest difference in the new pricing. Wasabi $40 per terabyte with no storage cap on how many terabytes you can buy is gone. But I'll argue that there are a few situations where getting that much space on Wasabi actually made sense. More on that later, but let's switch gears and talk about the cost savings if you're coming from the advanced plan before to the business plan now. Let's bring up the pricing calculator and do a direct comparison. Starting from the Lucid 2.0 pricing on the left, let's enter in the user count and total gigabytes. I'm using a scenario here from an actual media space that I manage for a medium-sized agency with tens of projects in the works at any given time. 11 users and 4,850 gigabytes or 4.85 terabytes. If you're wondering why the terabyte count is so low with tens of projects, check out my other video on H.265 workflow for LucidLink. It can save you literally thousands of dollars working with video projects in Lucid. Back to the calculator. You can see the total cost per month is $438.91. Let's dig in and understand this. The unit cost per gigabyte is the number here. This is taken directly from the invoice of this file space. Although it's advertised at $80 per terabyte, that doesn't actually translate nicely to a round number when you bring it down to the gigabytes. There are different ways to count terabytes. I won't go over that in this video, but if you're wondering why it's not a nice clean number like 0.08 cents, that's why. So multiplying the unit cost of gigabytes by 4,850, we get $378.91. Then we have 11 users. Remember the first 5 users are free, so I'm only paying for 6 users. 11 users with 5 free, 6 paid is $60. At $10 per paid user, our total is $438.91 per month. This is pretty simple to calculate, and I believe the complexity of the new pricing compared to how easy this is to calculate is where most of the confusion is coming from. Let's move on to the new pricing. We'll go section by section so you can understand the best way to calculate these costs. First, we look at our user count. Same as before, 11 users, the unit cost is $32 per user. Whoa, that's way more expensive than before, and this is where most people get tripped up. But let's keep going. Remember, in the new pricing, you get space per user account, 400 gigs. So at 11 users, we get 4.4 terabytes. Okay, so that's new, but let's keep digging into this. The next box is showing our included storage we just calculated, and the following box is the overage fee per gigabyte. So if we go over included 4.4 terabytes, we pay 0.08 cents per gigabyte. Next box is our total gigabyte used. Looks like this is more than the included gigabytes. Okay, now onto the final calculation, our overage charges. First, we state our total gigabytes used, how much is included, and then calculate the overages by multiplying the difference by 0.08. In this case, we're 450 gigs over, so that's an additional $36. The total cost comes out to $388. Compared to before, it's $50 less, a 12% cost savings. So it's cheaper in this scenario, and I do believe that most production companies using Lucid will find themselves in a scenario similar to this one. Now let's try something different and scale this up. So you had a very large file space for an enterprise, 100 users and 125 terabytes. In the old pricing, that's $10,715. And the new pricing, that's $10,000, a 7% cost savings. Now for some scenarios where it's more expensive. If you had 5 users and 1 terabyte on the old advanced plan, it's $81 more expensive now, but you get 2 terabytes of storage. And as soon as you jump to 2 terabytes on the old plan, the difference is only $3.75. If you have any scenario with a large amount of users but very low storage, it's going to be more expensive. Say 50 users over 8 terabytes. It's hard to imagine a situation where that happens often with an agency or film production company. These extremes are more expensive, but I have a hard time believing they are the norm. More people usually means more to work on, meaning you need more space. So it's almost always going to be cheaper for the average user. Plus, when the promised new features release, like web browsing or file space, and the mobile app, the value will be even greater over 2.0. Also worth noting, if you commit to an annual plan, you get an additional discount with a predictable cost. I know this has been a pain point of Lucid forever. It was hard to predict costs under the old system as it was based on counting every single gigabyte and paying for every single gigabyte every month. In the new approach, it's closer to a Dropbox style billing system where you get a certain amount of storage every month for the same fee. It certainly helps for budgeting. I'm personally looking forward to upgrading when the promised upgrade tool comes out sometime in Q2 2025. Let's talk about some of the other scenarios outside of the advanced 2.0 file space. For example, if you brought your own storage for $40 per terabyte, then it's unlikely you will save money. Or if you were on the even cheaper grandfathered $20 per terabyte, then there's no way you're saving any money. Let's go back and talk about Wasabi storage. If you were using it at any sort of scale, then it's easy to see how you may feel abandoned by Lucid. The pricing will be more expensive under any circumstances for you, but I believe that the Wasabi storage tier at such a low price couldn't exist for that cheap. It doesn't take long to find in the Lucid community Slack issues and complaints about it. It's constantly down, has random issues, or I've heard if your egress to storage ratio is too high, they'll drop you as a client, allegedly. Furthermore, it's also not hard to find people complaining about the performance of anything on Wasabi. I believe that most folks that were using this for professional work have since moved on to the advanced tier with IBM storage on Lucid 2.0. Ultimately, although on paper it made sense, it wasn't a good product at that price point that could exist issue-free, or at least issue-free enough to be used in a real-world production environment. So yes, if it worked for you, then that's great, but ultimately it didn't make business sense for Lucid to continue offering that product. And just recently, Lucid has turned off the creation of new file spaces with Wasabi storage, claiming concerns about incidents leading to data corruption. At the end of the day, you get what you pay for in cloud storage, and for Lucid use, at that price point, it just wasn't good enough. If you're interested in downloading the pricing calculator, link in the description. You can compare your current plan to the new plan now and see if you have any price savings or not. Consider liking and subscribing if you find this type of content helpful. See you on the next one.